chapter, we're going to go over and review social learning theory. So juveniles learn to engage in delinquency through their relationship with and exposure to others. And there's three main types of associations: primary and intimate groups, people at our school, religious community, neighborhood, and other settings, and then of course indirect contact. Indirect contact. So one of the things that we find consistent support for in the research is that associating with delinquent peers increases the likelihood of delinquency. This supports but does not prove social learning theory. If we want to prove social learning theory, we have to show that juveniles learn to engage in delinquency from those delinquent peers. So how do juveniles learn to engage in delinquency from others? People reinforce that behavior. They might teach beliefs favorable to that behavior, and they might provide delinquent role models for others to imitate. So let's talk about differential reinforcement. We're more likely to engage in delinquency when that behavior has been reinforced in the past, and we expect for that to continue to be reinforced. So let's take selling drugs, for example. If that is being reinforced with money in the past, and a dealer expects they'll get money in the future, they're more likely to engage in that behavior. But reinforcement is not all or nothing. So to predict delinquency, we have to look at three things: the frequency of that reinforcement, the amount of the reinforcement, and more likelihood to be reinforced. So when we talk about frequency, we tend to repeat behaviors that are frequently reinforced and avoid those that are frequently punished. We're also more likely to engage in behaviors that have a lot of reinforcement. And finally, in terms of probability, we're more likely to engage in behaviors with the highest probabilities of reinforcement. So when we talk about differential reinforcement, we're talking about the fact that different behaviors have different likelihoods of being reinforced. We have both reinforcement and punishment, okay? Reinforcement increases the likelihood that a behavior will be repeated, while punishment reduces the likelihood that it will be repeated. Positive reinforcement means the behavior results in something good, like money. Negative reinforcement means the behavior results in the removal of something bad. Your friends no longer make fun of you because you won't smoke marijuana. Positive punishment is the presentation of something bad, like being spanked or reprimanded. Negative punishment is the removal of something good, like taking away your PlayStation. Reinforcement comes from different places, mostly other people, and in particular, family members and friends. We also reinforce ourselves and punish ourselves. So sometimes we praise or punish ourselves. Then there's also intrinsic reinforcers. For example, when you take drugs, you get high, and that's an intrinsic reinforcer. Some individuals are more likely to be reinforced for delinquency. Continuous reinforcement means every act is reinforced, but this is pretty rare. Intermittent means only some acts are reinforced, and this is pretty common and usually sufficient to maintain our behavior. Juveniles also learn to distinguish situations that are most likely to result in reinforcement, so they commit delinquency in the situations with the highest probability of reinforcement. So if you're going to smoke pot, you're probably going to smoke it with your friends because that has a high likelihood of reinforcement as opposed to your parents. Research on this shows that experimental studies show a strong effect of reinforcement on subsequent aggression, and survey and field studies find reinforcement does increase delinquency. We also might get beliefs favorable to delinquency, and this can come from our peers. This doesn't mean, though, that we're not talking about people who believe murder is good or rape is good. Beliefs fall into three categories: people who generally approve of minor delinquency, approve of some delinquency under certain situations, and those who have general values that are conducive to delinquency. So let's look at the second one: conditionally approve of delinquency. Okay, this can be things like the subculture of violence. So the subculture of violence exists mostly in the South, and it's got a long history, and you may recall this from criminology when you talk about the subculture of violence. This is a subculture that not only approves of violence, but mandates it in certain situations. We also might use techniques of neutralization to diffuse our responsibility, or to, permit that that delinquent behavior in certain circumstances. So these are denial of responsibility, of injury or victim, condemning the condemners, and appealing to higher loyalties. And then we might have people who just have general values that are conducive to delinquency. They place an emphasis on excitement, thrills. They disdain hard work, and they want quick and easy success. And they place a high value on toughness and physical strength. Where do our beliefs come from? Family members, friends, community, and the media. And then also ourselves. After we engage in delinquency, that might change how we feel about it. Finally, we might imitate delinquent models. Juveniles are most likely to imitate models under certain conditions. Do they like and respect that person? Do they see that person get reinforcement? Do they see that person enjoying that? And are they in an environment where imitating the model's behavior is reinforced? Others might also inadvertently model aggressive behavior. The media also provides aggressive and violent models that we can imitate. So to summarize social learning theory, there is substantial support for this, and along with control theory is the leading explanation of delinquency.